everybody. This is May Doldelau with YesFinanciallyFree.com. And I am on YouTube, Creative Abundance Now. I am on Facebook, Finance Freedom Mastermind, and on Instagram, which is my name, May Doldelau. Today we are doing page 73 of the South Sea Bubble from Memoirs of Crowds by Charles Mackay. And my name, again, May Doldelau. I live in Waikiki with my husband, Jamel, and our 7-year-old son, Jordan. We live in this 2-bedroom condo. We own it. And also a 1-bedroom condo down the street is our Airbnb business. But back in 2011, I owned 0 property, dreamed of it, never had owned it. And I was over $40,000 in debt, mostly just credit cards and personal lines of credit. So by 2016, I paid off all the debt, improved our family's net worth improved by over $500,000, and we were making almost $500 a month in passive income. I quit my job. December 23rd, 2016 was my last day, and I started coaching clients to do what I did. So find out more at YesFinanciallyFree.com. Put in your first name, email address, and hit the big red yes button to get your free ebook, Working Parents Guide to Financial Freedom, and to get on my really cool email list. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about every day. All right, so let's begin today's reading. Before, just a quick summary. South Sea Company is an English company. They're a trading company. They go to South America and they buy goods and they sell it in England. However, they're not having a super great business because Spain controls most of the ports. However, they do make a deal with the government of England to take over the national debt. Their stock goes through the roof. There's a huge bubble that busts in about 8 months. And now the bubble has busted and everyone is angry because of their greed of like stock, trying to ride the stock market. They lost a lot of money. They're angry at the South Sea Company. So here we go, page 73. During all this time, the public excitement was extreme. We learned from Cox's Walpole that the very name of the South Sea director was thought to be synonymous with every species of fraud and villainy. Petitions from countries, cities, and boroughs in all parts of the kingdom were presented, crying for the justice due to an injured nation and the punishment of the villainous peculators. Those moderate men who would not go to extreme lengths, even in the punishment of the guilty, were accused of being accomplices, were exposed to repeated insults and virulent invectives, and devoted, both in anonymous letters and public writings, to the speedy vengeance of an injured people. The accusations against Mr. Illaby, Chancellor of the Exchequer, and Mr. Craggs, another member of the ministry, were so loud that the House of Lords resolved to proceed at once into the investigation concerning them. It was ordered on the 21st of January that all brokers, hi Rosalind, hi Juana, that all brokers concerned in the South Sea scheme should lay before the House an account of the stock or subscriptions bought or sold by them for any of the officers of the Treasury or Exchequer, or in trust for any of them, since Michaelmas 1719. When this account was delivered, it appeared that large quantities of stock had been transferred to the use of Mr. Illaby. 5 of the South Sea directors, including Mr. Edward Gibbon, the grandfather of the celebrated historian, were ordered into the custody of the Black Rod. Upon a motion made by Earl Stanhope, it was unanimously resolved that the taking in or giving credit for stock without a valuable consideration actually paid or sufficiently secured, or the purchasing of stock by any director or agent of the South Sea Company for the use and benefit of any member of the administration or any member of either House or Parliament during such time as the South Sea Bill was yet pending in Parliament was a notorious and dangerous corruption. Another resolution was passed a few days afterwards to the effect that several of the directors and officers of the company, having in a clandestine manner sold their own stock to the company, had been guilty of a notorious fraud and breach of trust, and had thereby mainly caused the unhappy turn of affairs that had so much affected public credit. Mr. Illaby, hi Laura, resigned his office as Chancellor of the Exchequer and absented himself from Parliament until the formal inquiry into his individual guilt was brought under the consideration of the legislature. In the meantime, Knight, the treasurer of the company, who was entrusted with all the dangerous secrets of the dishonest directors, in a small boat on the river, and made his escape from the country. Ooh, wow. Trusted with all the dangerous secrets of dishonest directors, packed up his books and documents, made his escape from the country. Jeez. He embarked in disguise in a small boat on the river, proceeding to a vessel hired for the purpose, was safely conveyed to Calais. The Committee of Secrecy informed the House of the circumstance, when it was resolved unanimously that 2 addresses should be presented to the king. The first praying that he would issue a proclamation offering a reward for the apprehension of Knight, and the second that he would give immediate orders to stop the ports, to take effectual care of the coast, to prevent the said Knight or any other officers of the South Sea Company from escaping out of the kingdom. That's funny. The ink was hardly dry upon these addresses before they were carried to the king by Mr. Methuen, deputed by the House for that purpose. The same evening, a royal proclamation was issued offering a reward of £2,000 for the apprehension of Knight. Wow. Thanks for the information, Laura. I wrote all this information in the description underneath this Facebook video if you need to read it more clearly. The same evening, a royal proclamation was issued offering a reward. Okay. General Ross, one of the members of the Committee of Secrecy, acquainted them that they had already discovered a train of deepest villainy and fraud that hell had ever contrived to ruin a nation, which in due time they would lay before the House. In the meantime, in order to a further discovery, the committee thought it highly necessary to secure the persons of some of the directors and principal South Sea officers and to seize their papers. A motion to this effect having been made was carried unanimously. Sir Robert Chaplin, Sir Theodore Jansen, Mr. Sawbridge, and Mr. F. Isles, members of the House and directors of the South Sea Company, were summoned to appear in their places and answer for their corrupt practices. Sir Theodore Jansen and Mr. Sawbridge answered to their names and endeavored to exculpate themselves. The House heard them patiently and then ordered them to withdraw. A motion was then made and carried nemen contradicente that they had been guilty of a notorious breach of trust, had occasioned much loss to great numbers of His Majesty's subjects, and had highly prejudiced the public credit. It was then ordered that for their offense they should be expelled the house, taken into the custody of the sergeant at arms. Sir Robert Chaplin and Mr. Isles, attending in their places 4 days afterwards, were also expelled the house. It was resolved at the same time to address the king to give directions to his ministers at foreign courts to make application for Knight, that he might be delivered up to the English authorities, in case he took refuge in any of their dominions. The king at once agreed, and messengers were dispatched to all parts of the continent the same night. Among the directors taken into custody was Sir John Blunt, the man whom popular opinion has generally accused of having been the original author and father of the scheme. This man, we are informed by Pope, in his epistle to Alan Lord Bathurst, was a dissenter, the most religious deportment, and professed to be a great believer. He constantly declaimed against the luxury and corruption of the age, the partiality of parliaments, and the misery of party spirit. He was particularly eloquent against avarice in great and noble persons. He was originally a scrivener, and afterwards became not only a director, but the most active manager of the South Sea Company. Whether it was during his career in this capacity that he first began to declaim against the avarice of the great, we are not informed. He certainly must have seen enough of it to justify his severest anathema. But if the preacher had himself been free from vice, he condemned his declamations would have had a better effect. He was brought up in custody to the bar of the House of Lords and underwent a long examination. He refused to answer several important questions. He said he had been examined already by a committee of the House of Commons, as he did not remember his answers might contradict himself. He refused to answer before another tribunal. This declaration in itself, an indirect proof of guilt, occasioned some commotion in the House. He was again asked peremptorily whether he had ever sold any portion of the stock to any member of the administration or any member of either House of Parliament to facilitate the passing of the bill. He again declined to answer. He was anxious, he said, to treat the House with all possible respect, but he thought it hard to be compelled to accuse himself. After several ineffectual attempts to refresh his memory, he was directed to withdraw. Violent discussion ensued between the friends and opponents of the ministry. It was asserted that the administration were no strangers to the convenient taciturnity of Sir John Blunt. The Duke of Wharton made a reflection upon the Earl Stanhope, which the latter warmly resented. He spoke under great excitement and with such vehemence as to cause a sudden determination of blood to the head. He felt himself so ill that he was obliged to leave the house and retire to his chamber. He was cupped immediately and also let blood on the following morning, but with slight relief. The fatal result, was not anticipated. Towards evening, he became drowsy, turned himself on his face, and expired. The sudden death of the statesman caused great grief to the nation. George I was exceedingly affected, shut himself up for hours in his closet, inconsolable for his loss. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for being on today's live. I hope you enjoyed it. We read up to page 76, so I'll be reading again tomorrow morning, same time, 7:40 at 5 a.m. Hawaii time. Have a great day. Thank you for being on the live on Instagram. Aloha. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. You'll get a notification when I'm live, and check the link below for the blog post with all the recordings and written descriptions of the summaries of what I've been reading as well, all in one place. And thank you so much for being on Facebook.